We needed to take a risk to do this. Art is about taking a risk. We're not going to please everyone. I don't anticipate it. But I do feel confident that by story's end, this one, I believe that some hearts and minds could be changed.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Movie Podcast. My name is Daniel, and joining alongside me is Shabazz. Hello, Shabazz.
Hey.
Oh, you're doing a very cool voice today.
Yeah, I'm cool guy Shay.
Shay, you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. How are you today?
I'm great. You know, today is a huge episode for us. We are just so excited to get right to it. But before we do any of that, it's TIFF season. We are in the middle of the Toronto International Film Festival. This is one of our favorite times of the year, and we get to watch some incredible movies. And there are some incredible movie reviews that you'll be able to listen to right now across all podcast feeds and on YouTube. So I just want to remind you, as always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast, which feels like every single day now, and you can check out our shows and reviews and our interviews all throughout the week. I want to make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd at the Movie Podcast. Join our Discord because we're having some great conversations in there, aren't we?
I would say so. I think we're having a lot of fun. We're having some good conversations. Some good questions are being asked. And a lot of beautiful reviews are being left by people saying like, hey, I discovered your podcast through this and that. And it's really awesome. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And, you know, we want to keep this conversation going as long as we can. You know, these episodes may end, but the conversation doesn't have to stop. So please join us on our Discord. We're having a great time in there. And I also just want to say, if you want to write into the show, if you want us to read a review or your thoughts on a movie or anything, hello@themoviepodcast.ca. That's the best place to do it. But today is a very special day because today on the Movie Podcast, we are joined by the one and only Brendan Fraser and screenwriter Samuel D. Hunter of The Whale. Now, The Whale, of course, is premiering here at TIFF in Canada. It did open up in Venice. I know for a fact anyone listening to this right now has seen the videos of the standing ovation for Brendan Fraser at Venice. At TIFF as well, he got a standing ovation. He is absolutely phenomenal in this film. And if you want to hear our review, myself, Shabazz, and Anthony did review the film. You could check out our review out right now across all podcast feeds and YouTube, so go listen to that. You know, we had the pleasure of being in a round table. You know, this is the first time the Movie Podcast has been in a round table interview. Now, for those of the uninitiated who don't know what that is, don't worry, this was our first time doing it too. Basically is you are sitting at a table, but this table was rectangular.
Yes, it was a rectangular table, and it was a massive table outside.
It was a table outside, so I just want to give you a warning right out the top that the audio for this round table isn't as clear as we were hoping that it would be, but you'll be able to hear everything. Don't worry. You'll just, you know what, this is the thing. If you are from outside the Toronto area and you wanted to know what it's like to live downtown Toronto, this is the experience you're going to get. You're going to get what it's like to be walking around downtown Toronto, and you'll be able to have the closest experience to being in this interview as we did, with all the sounds, all the ambient noise. You know, I think there was a person who was going down on a parade float at one point. There was a construction building being torn down.
People listened to Gwen Stefani. There was a lot of stuff happening.
There was a lot of happening. But, you know, the nice thing about this interview is that we did get to, you know, be part of a roundtable. Originally, it was just going to be myself in this roundtable with some other outlets. But we did have a friend ask us to take their place. So Shay was able to join the round table, or the rectangular table, on behalf of Zoomer.
It was like the Last Supper table.
It was the Last Supper table. So Shay is also part of this round table with Brendan Fraser and Samuel D. Hunter. And I want to say thank you to our friends Rachel Ho, who we met at this roundtable as well too. She is a writer for Exclaim .ca, and also she has a website, rachelkh.com, which I'm going to include all the show notes below. I also want to say thank you to our friend Steve Norton, who again we just met through this roundtable. He's part of ScreenFish. We're all part of it, so you'll be hearing all of our voices, and you'll be hearing the ambient sounds of across downtown Toronto. But you'll also be hearing, most importantly, the voices of Samuel D. Hunter and Brendan Fraser. Shay, what was your first reaction? You know, when Brendan kind of walked to the table and sat down.
So you and I were facing the opposite direction, and he kind of walked in, and all we heard was, we know Brendan Fraser's voice. We know it so well.
Yeah.
And we just heard it, and immediately we turned around, and he's like, kind of like shyly walking in, like quiet, almost like, oh, hey guys. And we're like, Brendan Fraser's here, Daniel. What do we do? And we like, kind of like half got up and just kind of like looked at him, and I was like, do I bow? Like
should I bow?
What is the right thing to do here?
Yeah.
And he kind of just sat down and like with his piercing blue eyes just looked at us, shook our hands. It was like, oh, where are you from? Or who are you? What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like just so personable and like laughing and joking around. Brendan Fraser is better than what you can imagine. He's the best.
He is the best. He's a wonderful human. So is Samuel D. Hunter, who is just, again, I cannot wait for everyone to watch this film. When you see, Brendan bringing the words of Sam to life, under the direction of Darren Aronofsky.
We should also say how we met Sam.
We did. So Shay and I were going up the elevator at Elevation Pictures. Again, shout out to our friends at Elevation, to Taro PR, and to A24. Anna Kendrick also got stuck in that elevator.
Yes, she got stuck in the elevator the day before.
We're
riding in this elevator.
We're riding this elevator, and there is a very tall man in the elevator with us, and he's like, "Oh, nice to meet you guys. How are you?" We don't know who he is, and then he's just like asking, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here today?" And we're like, "Oh, we're actually interviewing, with Brandon and Sam for The Whale." He's like, "Oh, great." He's like, "What did you think of the film?" I'm like, "Oh, it's phenomenal. It's a great movie." He's like, "Yeah, they did a great job with it." And I was looking at Jay afterwards. I'm like, Was that Samuel D. Hunter?
We're like, I don't know. It could be,
him?
but like, also like, we weren't trying to make, because the elevator is really tiny.
It is.
So we're trying not to make immediate eye contact. I was kind of like, oh my God, I'm like really cramped in this.
Yeah.
I don't want to just stare. And he's very tall.
He is, yeah.
So
it would have been obvious we were looking at him.
yes, I didn't want to make it seem like that.
Right.
And then lo and behold,
and yeah, it was him.
Yeah.
That we were in the elevator with Samuel D. Hunter.
Crazy.
Yeah. We shared a nice moment after the interview as well too.
We did.
We're going to talk all about that. So without further ado, please welcome Brendan Fraser and Samuel D. Hunter to the Movie Podcast. Brendan, good morning. Sam, good morning. Thanks so much for your time and for being here at TIFF. Brendan, you're wonderful in this film. And Sam, beautifully written film. I'm just curious, Brendan, for yourself, you spent so much time living as Charlie, and I'm just curious, after being in a film like this, what do you take back with you? Is there anything that you take from Charlie that you now apply to your own life?
It's an incredibly strong person, not just physically, to inhabit a human body that has that corporal composition. Because it was a laborious process to get into or to have all of the application, living it throughout the day. It was appropriately not comfortable, cumbersome, but that all was what Charlie had on board. And to take it off at the end of the day, it I don't know if the term is, it gave me a sense of if it's like survivor's guilt light or something. Like I could walk away from that after an hour. And interestingly, although all the appliances were off, I still had this vertigo, like when you step from a boat onto a dock, that sort of undulating sense. And so I felt that I was living that man's existence for however many hours a day we did this. I think it gave me an appreciation viscerally for those who live with obesity in this way. And the story itself struck all the notes in my heart and empathy about what it feels like to be overlooked or mocked or shut away and forgotten about, and the ramifications of how that affects your personal life. Clearly Charlie is a man who, yes, has no small measure of regret, but he still does have hope that he can reconnect with his daughter while he is running out of time, to let her know that he loves her. And she has a very shrill voice when he says actually, that noise was Sadie Sink. Spirit animal.
She's here with us.
When she had to deal with her dad.
Now,
Did that answer your question?
It did. Yes, it did. Thank you.
You got it.
Now, Brandon, you said that parts like this don't come around too often. At 53, at this stage in your career, how do you think you were able to, at the best point in your life, to tackle this kind of role?
I'm at
At the best point in your life to tackle this role?
Look, I've had so many diverse opportunities and movies I've made. I've gone on stretched in lots of different directions. I mean, clearly on paper, this is an actor's role that distinguishes itself from so much that I've done or have seen done. And to have the authenticity of it protected by Darren Aronofsky and Sam Winter's award-winning play and screenplay, I can't think of any actor worth his weight in salt in my peer group that wouldn't want to pay attention to being a part of that. And I feel I still pinch myself that I was lucky enough to be the guy to get the job.
I understand that you worked with the Obesity Action Coalition, and I was just wondering how that came about, like whose idea it was to work with them, how involved they got in. Did they get to read the script ahead of time? And what did you take away after working from them that maybe your perceptions changed?
When it started, do you know?
I actually don't know. It was really from the beginning when we first started. I developed a script with Darren over many, many years. When we finally were sort of like, okay, I think we might be doing this, we brought them on very early on. And we did a special screening for them a long time ago. And I feel like that was like 5 or 6 months ago, like a very early cut of the film. Because we just, wanted to make, look, this comes from a very personal place for me. I in part wrote this because I grew up gay in North Idaho, and I went to a very religious school that taught that people like me shouldn't exist. And eventually I started self-medicating with food. And I continued for a really long time. And of course, that's not everybody's story who's big. There's plenty of people out there who are big and happy and healthy. That wasn't my story. And that's not the story I decided to tell. So I think it was just very, very important to us early on that we brought in the OAC as a partner to make sure that we brought a level of authenticity to this beyond my lived experience.
Their concerns are legitimate, that we wouldn't be making a film that would compromise them, that would make them feel as if they were now seeing on the big screen the manifestation of the story of their lives that they've had to live, that put them in such a state that they can't feel like they can get away from their challenges. And it was a process of meeting with individuals who had lived with obesity, had bariatric procedures, but were going to. They gave me their stories, their testimonials in the most candid way that it was moving. It was moving to learn. And I'm no, demographic psychologist or anything, but I noticed from person to person who I spoke to, and it was at least between 8 and 10, like Zoom calls that winter, that their journey began with someone early in their life who was quite cruel to them, verbally, made them feel horrible about who they were. And sadly, I noticed it was often a man, it was often their father. From what among the 8 or 10 people that I spoke to, what that just let me know is it's true. Years and years ago in Bangkok, I was at a temple, massive, huge golden Buddha, and a plaque out front said, "Painful indeed is vindictive speech." That stayed with me. Words have meaning. And to break the cycle, I felt duty bound to tell this story. Not in a Hollywood way, that put actors in costumes and suits and makeup that defy gravity to be a one-note joke. And also because with their support, we needed to take a risk to do this. Art is about taking a risk. We're not going to please everyone. I don't anticipate it, but I do feel confident that by story's end, this one, I believe that some hearts and minds could be changed. Not everyone, but some. And I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To you both, the film is brilliant. It's incredible. It's heartbreaking. It is loving. There's a joy and a sadness and parts where it's funny. Like it's incredible. It's incredible for just from start to finish, from the script to the performances. And I was wondering, maybe this is a question that can't be answered, but one of the lines that shook me was "People are amazing," and we live in a time where we continue to find out that people are not amazing. So how do we hold on to that? And I was wondering, like, is that something that you believe?
I believe it. I believe Charlie believes that because he's an optimist. Essentially, he has a secret superpower, which is to see the good in others, and to bring that out in them, even when they don't know that about themselves. I mean, as an educator, it's his job, sure, but that's the tragedy. Is he's overlooked that in his own family and the regrets he has for the relationship that could have been with his ex-wife, with his daughter. And I mean, that's the journey that we must go on. I mean, attached to that line, Charlie says before then, and he said, "Do you believe that we can save each other?" No. People are amazing.
People, yeah. Do you ever get the feeling people are
capable of not caring? Do you ever get that feeling? And I think that's something that we could use a lot more of in our world.
We live in such deeply cynical times, and I've never been a cynical person. I've never been a cynical writer, and this way maybe even more so than any of my others. And I think as a result, like, as a writer, and I think Darren as a filmmaker too, we're just kind of opening a door and inviting you inside. And we're not going to grab you and drag you in with the tricks, with like plot gymnastics or visual effects, or none of the things that you normally would drag an audience to the door. So, as such, I think I'm just opening the door and inviting you inside. And I think the trick is, like, if you're going to meet that with a furrowed brow, then we're kind of at an impasse, you and I.
Right? Yeah.
But if you have just a little bit of faith and walk through that door, I'm hoping that we can, like, have a rewarding experience together. Because I'm a humanist through and through. I do believe that people are amazing, and I actually think that that's the harder choice to make. Cynicism is easy. Believing in nothing is really easy. Having faith in people is hard. And I think that's ultimately what the story is about, is hard-won faith in other people.
Thank you.
Sam, for yourself and Brandon, I mean, the reaction that this film got at Venice was amazing. That standing ovation was so, like, just heartwarming to see. I'm curious, for Brandon, when you came on board, and Sam, when you're adapting this with Darren Aronofsky for the screen, how did the film change when Brendan came on board, and how did it change when you were working on it with Darren to now make it from a play to now a film?
I mean, it's been a really long process. It's been a decade. Darren saw the play in New York in fall of 2012.
Wow.
And I started working on this play in 2009, when I was in my 20s, like living in an illegal sublet. So it's been a really long journey, but I'm really glad it took 10 years because it took 10 years to figure out how to make it the right way.
Right.
And at the core of that was who is Charlie, you know, and I feel so personally connected to Charlie and this story, and it was hard for me to write. It came from a very vulnerable place, and I was terrified about who we were going to give it to. But from the moment that Brendan read the screenplay in a little theater in the East Village about a week before COVID hit, I felt completely safe in his arms, and continue to feel so safe.
Sadie Sink was there too, by the way.
She was.
She was incredible one another until we walked into the door. She's
a virtuosic actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a front row seat.
I hated her so much. You're so rude.
Imagine how much pain that portrait is.
No, it's true.
That she's manifesting that through. That's from rage. And that performance could have been compromised by the trope of the angsty teenager that walked in the door. But she showed utterly prescient her talent. Go and explain that one away. I don't know how to. It just is what it is. And on top of that, her character shows up with a lot of questions that will not be ignored. And that's a testament to his writing.
Yeah.
Now, Brendan, fans are so excited for your comeback with Renaissance trending on TikTok.
I just see like we're in Italy and I'm looking up and looking at paintings on ceilings and I'm just like seeing myself.
How does it feel to be embraced by your fans from the 90s, but also not the next generation?
It's kind of cool because everybody has kids of their own now, and they were kids back when I was just hoping that nobody found me out yet. You know? So it warms my heart for sure. I appreciate it. It's eye-opening for me, to be straight up honest. I'm keen for that set who, however they know me from previously, that look, I'm a different guy now, and that was then. I feel different. I look different, and I'm a kid who's got special needs, is going to be 20 soon. My other son's going to be a senior in high school. My other kid's going to get a driver's license, and he picked up a guitar, and he can shred now. And you know, I feel like I've grown up some too. So putting that gravity of you know our lives that we have to work to play a part that's not as mass-produced or easily digestible in its pop culture fare is everything I'm looking for, or was looking for in this. Who knows what the future's going to come? I hear Batgirl is great. You can laugh.
We heard it is
No,
too.
it hurt.
I was there. I was there. Leslie was freaking amazing. I will say that she's the real deal. But look, we're here to talk about the well. Thank you for that, and I'm grateful for the support. That's the short answer to that.
Well, we came in this morning just quoting lines from Bedazzled and The Mummy. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Came in, I thought, should I say hi, Steve Nebraska, or should I just leave it? Like, I was like,
As long as-
like, just leave it.
As long as you're calling me. Call me whenever you want.
Sam's questions for you. I was wondering, so you said it's a 10-year process,
Yeah.
even more when you actually wrote it originally, but knowing that it was going to become a play, come a movie, and you knew that Darren Aronofsky, who is an incredibly stylistic director, but you have a single location, I mean, Mother was single location, but this is
Very different.
really single location.
Yeah, very different movies.
Was there a particular scene that you were excited to see how Darren would interpret it and put it onto the screen, or a particular line of dialogue or anything like that you were just excited to see what he was going to do with it?
I mean, I was excited about the whole thing. I mean, I feel like when he called me, you know, he said, let's meet and let's talk about making The Whale into a screenplay. I was an off-Broadway, I still am an off-Broadway kid, you know, I mean, this is a very different world for me. And so I was really anxious about it because I just didn't know what to expect. I think I bought Final Draft to write this screenplay. And I guess I came into it thinking like, oh, I guess he's going to want to do that thing of like opening it up. And I was really nervous about that because I was like, well, what is that? You know, like to like follow other characters.
It's a different story.
It's a different story, yeah. And I was like, A, I don't know if the story warrants that, and B, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it with integrity. But very, very early on, Darren was like, let's keep it in the room. And that was like the moment for me where I was like, oh, okay, he gets it.
Yeah.
And we both want to make the same thing. And so really, like, when I saw the first cut, you know, I was on set the entire time working with everybody very closely, but I wasn't part of the editing process. And so, you know, I walked into a theater like with sweaty palms, like, okay, what's this going to be? But like 5 minutes in, I was like, oh, he did it. You know, like it's exactly what I hoped it would be. You know, I knew that Brendan's performance was, I mean, I saw it every day. It was a thing to behold. It was a marvel, but you just don't know what's going to happen in the editing room. And once I saw it for the first time, I think I walked out of the screening room and I waited to call my husband, and he was really nervous about it too. So he was like, why are you not calling? And I just kind of walked down the block because I just needed the moment. And then finally I called him and I just burst into tears. I
feel you. I couldn't get out of my chair.
Yeah.
Just thinking, I need to gather myself here. And thinking, this could change some hearts and minds. I mean, I that's an altruistic notion, but I thought people are going to have to reorient the patterns of thinking that they brought into before seeing this film. They'll be thinking twice about it after they leave. It had such an impression on me. It just made me feel like this could do a lot of good. Yeah. It could do a lot of good. And you know, movies are distractions, they're entertainment, and I get it. But it fed my soul.
Just as we wrap up, and honestly, it's such an honor to speak with you both. It really is. I was wondering if you'd talk about the power of one true thing. This is all the way through. Charlie's just tell me one true thing. Just write something honest. I mean, you talked about changing that hit me. That was eye-opening for me. I was just wondering for you both, the power of something honest, the power of one true thing.
Weirdly, I think in 2022, more so than when I wrote the play, you know, the idea of truth and honesty, I think it's becoming like really important. I think that, you know, we live in really cynical times. We live in a time where people are incredibly guarded. They don't want to, they don't want to open up. They don't want to be honest with each other. They stick to their sides, or they stick to their patterns. And I think that this movie is just in a very simple way asking for people to. That's what I said before. Like, please just walk in the door.
And
like
just see it.
Yeah.
And ask yourself that question too, because at the heart of it all is authenticity.
Yeah.
From the creation of Charlie himself to what he says and what he feels, and the hope that you attach that his journey will be complete, and the breathlessness you have up until the last moment of this film. Look, it's powerful stuff. You know that already. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for answering.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time. Phenomenal.
Thank
you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Email him that file now.
Yeah.
If you email us back, we'll email that file.
And welcome back, Shay. That was really cool.
It was.
We were kind of just on a high when this day happened because we finished this interview. We spoke with Brendan Fraser. We're just like sitting at a table like we are right now talking to him. Hopefully the audio for everyone listening, you were able to hear everything that we spoke about. It was a great time. Honestly, I can't talk highly enough about this film. Brendan's performance is phenomenal. Sadie Sink is phenomenal. Chau is phenomenal. It's just all around a fantastic film. So I'm excited for everyone to watch it. But being able to sit at that table with Brendan Fraser, someone that we've grown up loving our entire lives, it's a very surreal thing. And then we had to run from there to go watch The Fabelmans, which is also another phenomenal movie that we have our review up for. And then we had an Apple event after that. So it was just a day full of emotions. Shay, how are you feeling after that conversation?
I feel like we should have given people a heads up to have tissues ready because
Definitely.
it was a very personal interview. And there's moments that Brendan kind of like really broke with us. Like
he relished in the moment of the film.
Really
that he made.
did.
Yeah.
And he was so personable and like, really unlocking a lot of memories in ourselves and within himself. So, but yeah, no, it was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. And if we waited a few extra moments, we would have seen Hugh Jackman as well too, who also has worked with Darren Aronofsky.
Though.
Yeah, we did.
did see D.
DA.
I can't make his name cool like that. Like how I usually do it.
Yeah,
I can't do that with his name.
Aronofsky. No, we won't give you a code name, Darren. We're very big fans of you. So, we're just I think we're the TIFF madness is starting to get to us. It all feels very surreal at this point. But I just want to say thank you to her again, Rachel, to Steve, to Shay on behalf of Zoomer for.
That's right.
For Shay's part of a new outlet now.
No. I'm loyal to the end.
Loyal to the end of the movie podcast. No, it's a very surreal thing that we got to be part of, and I can't thank our friends at Elevation, A24, and Furtaro for making this happen for us. Hopefully we'll get to talk to Brendan again for many more pictures. Also, he dropped that nugget of Batgirl, just like, Leslie Grace is fucking great in it. So, maybe one day we'll get to see that movie too. But as always, you can catch many new episodes of the movie podcast all throughout the week. Make sure you tune in for all of those, and make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd at the movie podcast. Join our Discord, follow us on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you're up to. We'd love to hear. We'd love to know what you're watching and what you think of the show. It would mean a lot to us. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.